Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Buckeye Politics. It's me, your favorite Ohioan. We're back with a new video about Ohio Issue 1, which is a very important ballot election taking place in my home state of Ohio, obviously. It's about abortion, and it's probably the biggest election in the state of Ohio on Tuesday, along with other elections across the country. And it's going to have big ramifications down the line for upcoming elections, for the pro-life movement, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to kind of state my opinion on the ballot initiative, how I think you should vote if you do live in Ohio, and then we'll kind of get into my predictions. Maybe this is a little bit it might seem kind of goofy me doing it that way, since I'm going to say one thing and then I'm going to kind of say another thing, but you'll see what I get to. You'll see what I mean as we go through. So we're on Ballotopedia now, and we're going to be reading this. So essentially, Ohio Issue 1, the right to make reproductive decisions, including abortion initiative, very long and wordy, is on the ballot in Ohio as an initiated constitutional amendment, and the vote is on November 7th of 2023. So a yes vote, so if you vote yes in this amendment, you would support amending the Ohio Constitution to establish the constitutional right to make and carry out one's own reproductive decisions, including but not limited to decisions about abortion, contraception, fertility treatment, miscarriage care, and continuing pregnancy, and also allow the state to restrict abortion after fetal viability, except when it's necessary to protect the pregnant patient's life or health. Very long and wordy. And a no vote is literally just to oppose that. Very simple, very straightforward. And so, as you can see here, pretty much just it defines fetal viability as the point of pregnancy when is in the professional judgment of the pregnant patient's treating physician. The fetus has a significant likelihood of survival outside the uterus with reasonable measures, unless abortion is necessary to protect the pregnant patient's life or health. So what this basically means is if this were to pass, abortion up until I think 21 weeks and 6 days would be legal in the state of Ohio. I've heard that 21 weeks is considered to sort of be the fetal viability stage. That is the youngest a baby has survived outside of the womb. It's very funny that is what we use as fetal viability, because that number has always been going down. It's almost like it's a baby all stages of pregnancy. Well, whatever. But yeah, 21 weeks is essentially the deadline that is respected by most medical professionals for when abortion or for when the baby can survive outside the womb. So in a lot of states, it's sort of seen as a good middle ground between banning abortion and keeping it legal. That said, there are also there is an exception to this, and that is if a medical emergency, or if the woman is raped, or if there's a case of incest. So those are the exceptions. So if this passes, it would make abortion legal for before 21 weeks and 6 days, and in any case after that, if the woman is raped or if she needs to, or if she's has health issues. So there's a lot of different groups involved in this. We'll kind of go down and look at the different people supporting this. So the biggest supporters of this are U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown of the Democrats, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, a bunch of U.S. representatives from Ohio, Shontel Brown, Amelia Sykes, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, a couple state senators, the Ohio Democratic Party, bunch of pro-choice organizations, a couple of random individuals, and then there's arguments by these different people for why you should vote yes for it. And then the opposition is mostly conservatives. You have Senator J.D. Vance, a couple congressmen, Mike DeWine, pretty much the entire Ohio state legislature. Look at this list of state senators and state representatives. Frank LaRose, Secretary of State, Lieutenant Governor John Husted, Mike Pence, the Republican Party of Ohio, a bunch of organizations, all the Catholic dioceses of Ohio, actually, a bunch of pro-life organizations, and actually Tucker Carlson is encouraging people to vote no. So you have a bunch of arguments here. Now, I'm not going to read them all to you. I pretty much said what the thing would do. So I explained what the amendment would do. So if you kind of understand their different arguments, I'm assuming already. Looking at the contributions, there's a lot of money that's been spent actually in this. It's actually been a very high profile election, with the support people have taken. So the yes vote, the pro-choice, has taken in about $41 million, while the pro-life groups have taken in about $29 million. And they've spent pretty much equivalent to what they've taken in. So you have the support or the yes vote has spent $38 million, and the no vote has spent $27 million. So proportional to how much they brought in, they've pretty much spent equally. The largest donors have been a bunch of groups. I'm not even sure who these are. Planned Parenthood is one that spent a lot of money, but then a couple just random left-wing groups, and then a couple more like pro-life right-wing groups have spent money on no. Pretty much what you would expect, to be honest. Let's look at polling now. And we might be getting ahead of ourselves. I have to state my opinion on this and kind of go through. But basically, the polling seems to show a yes, or the pro-choice leading pretty handily. This is missing a recent poll from Ohio Northern University that had it 60-40. It's like, let's see, 58-33 in favor of yes, 53-30 in favor of yes. Although these are a little bit older, not a whole lot of polling has been done, which I find interesting because this is a pretty high-profile race, I think. But now I'm going to state my opinion on this. If you couldn't tell, I am a no vote. I would encourage everyone to get out and vote no on this, because not only am I pro-life, and I think a lot of pro-lifers will tell you that, yeah, they're against this because it's against abortion, but it also goes a lot further, because the wording in the amendment, I said at the beginning, it's very wordy. It is very wordy. So we're going to look at this very well done analysis from the Ashtabula County GOP, which they basically broke it down and explained how the language in the amendment is very misleading and could be misinterpreted. So we'll start off by saying that it does impact the Bill of Rights. And so the full text is, be it resolved by the people of the state of Ohio that Article 1 of the Ohio Constitution is amended to add the following section. Article 1, Section 22, the right to reproductive freedom with protections for health and safety, mostly for abortion providers, obviously. So the first part of this is, every individual has a right to make and carry out one's own reproductive decisions, including but not limited to decisions on contraception, fertility treatment, continuing your pregnancy, miscarriage care, and abortion. So let's break this down. So it says every individual. That means any age. It doesn't state adults. It says every individual. That means any age, including minors. And then it says make and carry out. So every individual has a right to make and carry out one's own reproductive decisions. If you're a minor, you don't have to get parental consent if this were to pass. It's very clear. It's every individual make and carry out their own reproductive decisions. So that means you could have a teenager get pregnant and get an abortion without their parents knowing, which currently is illegal in Ohio, but if this passes, it would become legal. And it also does not say anything about restrictions. So abortion through all 9 months. And then it says, as I said, it's without limits. So what is that? What does without limits mean? If you consider reproductive decisions to be about sex, which a lot of people do, that could mean gender selection, gender surgery, trans surgery, chemical castration, other stuff. The amendment is very vague and opens the door to a lot of things that I think most people are against. So let's go to part 2. The state shall not directly or indirectly burden, penalize, prohibit, interfere with, or discriminate against either an individual's voluntary exercise of this right or a person or entity that assists an individual exercising this right. What does that mean? That no age restrictions, again, because it says an individual, not an adult, and it also says that the government cannot restrict a person or entity. You could say, well, I don't want women to be penalized for getting an abortion. Fair enough, that's fine. But what about an entity that assists them in killing their baby? That's another thing. What about organizations that do gender surgery for minors? You can't punish them. Now the state can't do anything about that because it adds entity, and that means groups, activists in school, teachers. It once again leaves the door open. What does that exactly mean? Does that mean that a school or an organization could allow a teenager who's not an adult to get an abortion without the parents knowing, or a sex change without the parents knowing? Yeah, pretty much. So unless the state demonstrates that it is using the least restrictive means to advance the individual's health in accordance with widely accepted and evidence-based standards of care. However, an abortion may be prohibited after fetal viability, but in no case may such an abortion be prohibited if the professional judgment of the pregnant patient's treating physician says it's necessary to protect the pregnant patient's life or health. So notice how it says may be prohibited. It doesn't say will be prohibited. It says may be prohibited. That means that abortions are not guaranteed, or it still could happen after fetal viability. And then it goes on to say, talk about how the physician's opinion is needed. What if the physician says it's fine at 40 weeks? Then it's perfectly okay. The amendment would allow that. And once again, it's not age or gender specific. It just says pregnant patient's life or health. What does that mean? That means that, once again, a teenager could get an abortion without their parents knowing. Very interesting. As used in this section, fetal viability means at the point in pregnancy when, in the professional judgment of the pregnant patient's treating physician, the fetus has a significant likelihood of survival outside the uterus with reasonable measures. This is determined by a case-by-case basis. Oh, interesting. So it's up to the doctor. Well, what if the doctor's fine with it at 40 weeks? Like you see why a lot of people are against this, and it says fetus. It's unborn child, and it says reasonable measures. That's not defined. What do you mean by reasonable measures? Basically this amendment, it leaves the door wide open for this to be taken very out of context and to be used for very bad things. And this whole thing as well is a constitutional amendment. So the governor, the state legislature, all of that stuff can do nothing about this. Once this is passed, it's set in stone. It can't be undone. So as you see, well, yes, it's about abortion. It can be used a lot more, and that's really why I think myself and a lot of other people are against this, is because it's more than just abortion. It's about sex changes. It's about opening the doors to late term abortion. And yeah, sure, they say, oh, sure, in the amendment it might say, yeah, we don't want there to be late term abortion, but in the thing it never said that that's not a possibility. It's still very late term abortions are still very much going to happen once this passes. So yeah, very interesting. So now we're going to look at the data. Um, so unfortunately, I do think this is probably going to pass. I'd say about yes plus 10 or 9 or 10 points or so. This is the last early vote update we've gotten. This was from November 1st, so 4 days ago. It's already probably outdated, but this is the last I've seen. So in the early vote, Democrats lead by about 9 points. 49% of early votes have been cast by Democrats, 40% have been cast by Republicans, 9% have been cast by independents, 55% female. And the only good thing here is that 77% of the early vote has been cast by people 55 or older. These are usually much more conservative, much more pro life voters. Only 5% has been cast by voters from 18 to 29. The August referendum, it was close to 15% of votes were cast by people 18 to 29, and it was only about 50% were cast by people over 55. So the electorate, as of now, is a much more older demographic. If you look at the turnout in terms of demographics, like white voters, African American voters, Hispanics, Asians, it's pretty much identical to what it was in August. And then where they come from, it's a very suburban. It's a very suburban turnout. Turnout in the suburbs is very high. It's very low in urban areas, and rural areas it's up slightly. You can kind of see here, it's pretty much the blue areas are blue, the red areas are red, and that's pretty much what's going to happen here. Conservatives have done a very good job at getting out the vote, although they've been outspent, not by too much, but they have been outspent. They've done a great job of getting boots on the ground to get people to turn out and vote. And conservatives are energized. I mean, you've seen a lot of energy from the right across the state, especially in more rural counties and evangelical voters, Catholics. I mean, there is a very strong no movement, unlike in August. In August, there was a vote yes in August because they flipped. So in August, the conservatives would have voted yes. But even then, I mean, it's much stronger now than it was then, and so that does give myself and some people hope that there could be a strong turnout in terms of people voting no. I've seen a lot of people on the left kind of panic about this. I mean, this probably should have been a slam dunk, but they appear to have dropped the ball in terms of getting people to turn out and vote, or at least from the Democratic side. And so there are some people nervous that there could be an upset. I don't see it. I think it's going to be about 55 to 45, 45, 40, 54 to 46, somewhere around there. But yeah, so if you look at just the demographics, it's way too early to tell, but it does look pretty good, all things considered, for the pro-choice side. Yes. So now we're going to look at this is a very similar proposal that was in Michigan last year. So Michigan is a much more blue state than Ohio. It's a much more pro-choice state, and the yes or the pro-choice vote got 56.7%. No, the pro-life vote got 43.3%. It was pretty much very similar to Ohio's referendum in August, where a lot of the more exurban, suburban, and urban areas voted pro-choice, while the rural areas still voted no. It was a little bit less polarized in Michigan than I think it will be in Ohio, although I think Ohio is going to be practically identical to the August referendum, because that was pretty much about, most people thought that was about abortion anyway. But I think Michigan gives us sort of a good baseline, because, I mean, in Michigan, pro-choice vote got about 57%, no got about 53%. And so that was pretty much identical to what we saw in August. Ohio is a much more pro-life conservative state than Michigan. So I do think that the pro-life vote does outperform Michigan by a couple of points. I think that's why I think about the 55, 45, 54, 46 is about a good margin in my opinion. But we'll have to wait and see. So my final prediction, I'll put it on screen now. As you can tell, I think it's going to be pretty much identical to what we saw in August in terms of the county map and the percentage. Although I think that no, the pro life vote does do a little bit better. I think conservatives do get stronger turnout in rural areas. I think a couple counties in western Ohio and Appalachian Ohio turn out. I think that the pro life side also makes up some ground in northeast Ohio. specifically in Ashtabula County, which I actually have flipping from August into the, or I guess you call conservative pro life side. And I think they do make up a little bit of ground in terms of percentage points in Northeast Ohio, as well as the Cincinnati suburbs. And then, but I do think that you might see a slight overperformance from in Athens County, which is in southeastern Ohio, and possibly Toledo as well. There's some in Columbus. I think you might see some small pro-choice gains there. But as you can see, very similar map to what we saw in August, except as I mentioned before, Ashtabula County does flip to the pro-life side, as does Greene County, which is near Dayton. And then I think a few counties maybe go a little bit more pro-life, and the pro-life side makes up a little bit of ground across the state. But yeah, pretty much very similar margins in terms of the August referendum. I really don't see it being all that close. I think this is a good prediction. But yeah, thank you for watching this video. If you live in Ohio, get out and vote no. Let's try to flip it somehow. Let's prove me wrong. That's the challenge. Prove my prediction wrong. Let's win tomorrow on Tuesday. But yeah, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you on Tuesday.